Good morning, Mia. Good morning, friends. Shema Yisrael Asher Eloheinu Yahweh Echad. ואהבת את ענת אלוהיך ובכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך וחיו הדברים האלה אשר נוהים מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ולכתך ובדרך ובשכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך וחיו לתותבות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך וחיה כי ויחיה אלוהיך אל הארץ אשר נספה לבתיך לאברהם ליצחק וליעקב לתת לך ערים גדולות וטובות אשר לא בנית ובתים מלאים כל טובה אשר למילתה ובורות הטובים אשר לא עזבה כהרים בזיתים אשר לא נתת והלכת ושבת הישמר לך פן תשכח את יהוה אשר תשעך מארץ מצרים מבית עבדים. Good morning, Meg. Good morning, Dr. Punk. Hey there, Mia. Thank you for the present. I appreciate that. What language is this? Who can tell heckin' good pupper? What language? I was just saying prayers in. What are my pronouns? Who can tell Nadia what my pronouns are? You can guess. You're allowed to guess. So, today, we're going to start reading from the Enuma Elish. Which is a Babylonian creation epic. Yes, it's Hebrew. I'm glad you made it this morning too, Meg. I'm always happy when you're here. It is neither a sticker nor a painting. It's Sharpie on plaster. So it's a drawing, I suppose. It's the tree of life. Right? The phylogenetic connections between me and everything else. Good Shabbos. Thank you for being here, Eva. So, we're going to start reading the Enuma Elish here. Right, so this is a story from Babylon, although it's likely even older. It's likely from Sumer, or perhaps older than that, right? A story of the creation of the world and the trials and tribulations of the various gods of ancient Mesopotamia. So we will start at the beginning, tablet 1. We'll read a page or two, and then we'll move on and read something else. Did you miss breakfast? No, you did not miss breakfast. Breakfast comes at the end. We're going to read the Enuma Elish, and then I'll say Arati and Kaddish, 2 prayers in Sanskrit and Hebrew, respectively, that I like to say every morning. And then it will be breakfast time. But first, the Enuma Elish. Good morning, Nova. You love when I read? Well, I'm glad, because usually when I read, everyone leaves. Good morning, hippie queen. I'm glad you made it here. So I tend to say the same words every morning, but these are different words, right? Because I was getting a little bit bored saying exactly the same words every morning. So I started reading these ancient texts, because I think they're valuable and important to read. So let's hear about how the people from Babylon told a story of the creation of their world. It starts like this. At a time when even the glories had yet to be named, a time before names, and unuttered was the word for the world which lay beneath, right? In the beginning there was the word. I'm sure you've heard that phrase before, right? Well, here we have in the Enuma Elish something similar. At a time when even the glories above had yet to be named, and unuttered was the word for the world which lay beneath. It was then that the first being, Apsu, who was their source, and the progenitor, Tiamat, the mother who gave birth to all, intermingled their waters, producing neither field nor marsh. At a time when no divine beings had yet come into existence, there were no names to be spoken, no fates pronounced, but the gods were given birth within those intermixing waves. The first were Lamu and Lamu. Lamu and Lahamu. Their names were spoken, but once they had fully grown and become mature of form, they were born Anshar and Kishar, and they outshone them. Oh gosh. Good morning. Good morning. Hello. Hi. I'm doing well. I'm streaming. Maybe I could call you back in 20 minutes?
Oh yeah.
You can go on Facebook and say hi. That was my mother. Normally I wouldn't answer the phone while I was streaming, but she likes to watch my streams when she can. Anyhow, we were learning about Anshar and Kishar. Then were born Anshar and Kishar, and they outshone them. And so many days passed by, and so many years were counted. Their first son was Anu, being as great as any of his forebears. And Anshar caused his son Anu to become just like himself, like father, like son. And from Anu came Nudimud, who was also his spitting image, and Nudimud proved to be even greater than his forebears, profoundly wise and full of insight, with strength in his limbs, more infused with might than even his grandfather, Anshar. And that's a page. So with that, we will conclude this theogony for now. But we will be reading the Enuma Elish for a good long while, right? It's a long story about the creation of the world and the war between the gods. So I'm very excited to be reading this story with you all, and we will pick it up again tomorrow. Although I don't think I will be streaming tomorrow because I have an appointment in the morning, but we'll pick it up again soon. Ooh! Lost the flame. How are you all doing today? So, now we will say Arati. What's the name of the book? The name of the book is the Enuma Elish. Of course, it wasn't a book when it was first published. Enuma, that's just the first two words of the story in ancient what language were they speaking? Akkadian, maybe? Some Semitic language. And Enuma Elish, named after its opening words, what is the translation of, I mean, I guess we can have it right here, the first two words. And there was, at a time when even the glories had yet to be named after its opening words. What were the opening words? Enuma Elish, I don't actually know what when on high. Enuma Elish means when on high. And the language is Akkadian. Yes. Yeah, I hope you'll stick around. Alright, chances are, Hippie Queen, you will not hear a full, complete version of the story, because I only read a page every day, and I doubt you'll be with me every day, because I'm inconsistent with my readings. But, these stories, they were transmitted orally. They weren't transmitted in one piece. They were transmitted piecemeal, right? These little bits of memes, same way that TikTok is, right? You get a piece here and a piece there, right? So I don't actually think it's problematic to, pick up the story at a random point and hear what it has to say. But it's a very interesting story about a dragon who's ripped in half in order to create the heavens and the earth. Enuma Elish in Akkadian, when on high. That's the translation of those two words. Dated to, so the oldest complete version of the Enuma Elish we have comes from the Library of Ashurbanipal, which dates to the 7th century BC, so around the time that the Torah was being written. But the story itself is probably significantly older than that. Probably was first compiled maybe 4,000 years ago. So it's a very old story. Next, we're going to say arati. The word arati means flame in Sanskrit. So this is a different language, different part of the world. And the arati is a partial quote from the Bhagavad Gita. And the Bhagavad Gita was written down about 2,000 years ago. So this story was how do I put this? The distance between us and the Bhagavad Gita is the same distance as the distance between the Bhagavad Gita and the Enuma Elish in time. Ooh! What's going on with my throat? I should get some water. Right, these timelines, they're often difficult to comprehend. Many people have heard of the Queen Cleopatra. Cleopatra is closer in history to us today than she was to the creation of the first pyramids in the 4th dynasty. Time is long. Time is long, time is wide. So we're going to say arati. And arati means flame in Sanskrit, or light. And it's a reminder that is our source. That is our source. That is where we came from, and that is where we will return. How do you cope with rejection? Sadly. You feel pain. I've been rejected many, many times in many, many ways. And it hurts, right? And I think sometimes the best we can do is not hurt ourselves further for being hurt, right? Rather than being hurt and say, oh, I shouldn't be hurt, this sucks, you just need to suck it up, right? Let yourself be hurt. Don't berate yourself for being hurt. Just feel pain. Be in pain for as long as it takes. And maybe it's years, right? There are some kinds of rejection that I have experienced that I am still in pain because of. It's not that it's easy. It's not that you cope with it by getting rid of the negative impacts of the bad thing that happened to you. It's a bad thing, right? A bad thing happened to you, right? So you acknowledge that. You say, oh, that's a bad thing. I am in pain. That sucks. And then you continue on in pain. That's how I cope with rejection. I'm not sure it's coping. It might just be, how do you experience rejection? Rejectedly. So, thank you for all those roses. I appreciate that. Do I overthink? All I ever do is think, River. Do I think too much? Probably, right? Am I lost in my own head? Almost all the time. It is what it is. Oh my gosh, so many roses. Thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. Right? It's very validating to me. Know that I'm not wasting my time with you all. Do I do a morning ritual every day even when I don't stream? No. I have always streamed this ritual. I've been streaming this ritual for 8 years now. Yeah, if I don't stream it, then I don't do it, because for me, part of it is social and performative. I mean, there have been times that I've said the prayer on my own privately, but yeah, for me, it's a very social activity. The place where I live, is it a closed community? Yes, the community that I live in is not accepting members at this time. One day I hope that we will be accepting members and I can put out a call on TikTok. I would love that. I would love to recruit from all of you lovely people. But we don't have open bedrooms, nor do we have the resources to build new bedrooms currently. It's quite an endeavor, quite a difficult endeavor to increase our size running an institution like this. But I'll let you know if there are any openings, promise. I hope you have a nice birthday party, Courtney. Whose birthday? So, we will say Arati. The word Arati means light or flame in Sanskrit. And it goes like this. Jaya Jayarati Vina Vinayaka Vina Vinayaka Shri Ganesha Jaya Jayarati Subramanya Subramanya Kartikeya Jaya Jayarati Venugopala Venugopala Venuola Papa Vidura Navanita Chora Jaya Jayarati Venkanta Ramana Venkanta Ramana Sankatarana Sita Rama Radhe Shama Jaya Jayarati Gauri Manohara Gauri Manohara Bhavani Sankara Samba Sadashiva Uma Maheshwara Jaya Jayarati Raja Rajeshwari Raja Rajeshwari Tripura Sundari Mahalakshmi Mahasaraswati Mahakali Mahashakti Jaya Jayarati Anjaneya Anjaneya Hanumanta Jaya Jayarati Dattatreya Dattatreya Trimutrya Vatara Jaya Jayarati Adityaya Adityaya Bhaskaraya Jaya Jayarati Sanistaraya Sanistaraya Bhaskaraya Jaya Jayarati Sankaracharya Sankaracharya Advaita Guravi Jaya Jayarati Sadgurunata Sadgurunata Shivananda Jaya Jayarati Vishnu Devananda Vishnu Devananda Vishnu Devananda Jaya Jayarati Agastya Munaye Agastya Munaye Shriyama Priyaye Jaya Jayarati Ayappa Swamine Ayappa Swamine Dharma Shastave Jaya Jayarati Jesus Gurave Moses Gurave Buddha Gurave Jaya Jayarati Muhammad Gurave Guru Nanak Gurave Samastya Gurubho Namaha Jaya Jayarati Venugopala. Oh gosh, thank you for all of those gifts. Like, really, truly. Right, like, I don't know how to describe to you the kinds of doubts that I have about whether or not I'm spending my time properly, and to be compensated for doing this activity, it's very meaningful. Like, it has a real impact on my life and the kind of decisions that I can make about how I spend my time. So thank you. What religion do I practice? I don't know how to answer that question. This religion, I suppose. I I combine Shabbat Shalom, Batya. I combine narratives from different traditions, right? We were reading from the Enuma Elish earlier, right? So this is ancient Babylonian text, and before that we were reading from ancient Canaanite text, right? So I tried to go to the root. This prayer that I'm now interrupting myself in order to answer your questions for. This prayer is from the Bhagavad Gita, right? So I try to dabble all across the ancient world to try to understand the ancient traditions that gave rise to the modern world that I live in today, because I find the modern world deeply perplexing and convoluted. Inclusive. Yes, the religion I practice is inclusive, and it is both old and young, and it is both monotheistic and polytheistic. It is the unification of opposites. It is what it is. And I feel very lucky to be able to share it with you, and that you are grateful that I am sharing it with you. It means a lot to me. Yeah. Natatra suyobati natandra karatam nema vidyobati kutoya magni twameva bantamana sarvam tasya basya sarmitam vivanti om gange kayamune kaiva govari saraswati narmade siddhu kaveri hiya. Namastitam namo namaha. Twameva mata chapita twameva bandusha saka twameva vidya dravinam twameva sarvam mama deva kayena vacha manasendriyarva buddhyatmanava prakrite sabhavad karomi adyad mangalam parasmahi narayana iti sarmarpayami Sarvadharmam pravijayam amekam savanam vrija aham sva sarva papayo mokshayami masucha. Whatever actions I perform with my body, speech, mind, senses, my nature, my intellect, or my emotions, all these I dedicate to you. Thank you so much for joining me today. What do you think happens when we pass? Well, it's a very timely question. I'm about to say Kaddish. And I think about this question often. I've made some films around it. You can go in my archive and look. There's a film I made about the Tree of Life. This is the Tree of Life here. This is a phylogenetic tree that shows the pattern that connects you and me with all of the animals and all of the plants and everything back down to our last universal common ancestor at the center, Luca, right? So this is a tree, it's a real pattern, right, that has been observed by biologists over the last 2 or 3 centuries, and so they made this graph that shows how every living thing is connected to every other living thing, right? And the Tree of Life, it's not just a symbol, right? It's not just like some metaphor that religious people came up with several thousand years ago. It's not just some metaphor that biologists came up with 100 years ago, right? It's a real thing that exists in the world. Like, phylogeny is real, evolution is real, creatures evolve, and extinctions happen. And so I think of the Tree of Life as a living being, right? It is a living being of which I am a part of, right? I am a twig, a branch, a leaf on that tree. And of course, twig, branch, leaf, these words are metaphorical, right? The tree is actually, it is just an abstract pattern that exists in information space. But nonetheless, it's real, and it's been growing and evolving for 3.8 billion years, and I am a part of it. And when I die, the tree will still be around, and I will still be a part of it, because the tree does not die, right? Branches die, leaves fall off, entire phyla go extinct from now and again. But the Tree of Life is the oldest living pattern that anyone is aware of. And as much as possible, I try to identify myself with that, right? When I think about religious development, when I think about what religion are you? Well, I exist somewhere on the tree of all of the religions and the ways that they interact with one another, right? So when I die, this particular selfhood will dissolve, right? It will cease to be, because it only ever was or could be in a moment in time. but I will have in some tiny way impacted the tree of life. My pattern will still be in it. And that tree of life will continue on, and there will be creatures which resemble me, and they will resemble me because I existed. Right? Because I existed, there will be things like me after me. And so I live my life to try to be that pattern as strongly and as vividly as I possibly can. So when I die, I won't go anywhere. I will just continue to be what I have always been. I don't know if that makes sense. Perhaps I've said it more succinctly elsewhere, right? But that tends to be my orientation, right? I am part of an eternal living thing, which is bigger than me and yet of me, in the same way that my cells are part of my body, right? What happens when my skin cells die? What happens when I lose a hair? Well, nothing. I continue to exist. The cell dies, the hair goes away, but the hair is me, and I am still here, right? In that same way, when Teresa dies, the tree that I am a part of will still be here, still be living and growing and being. Yeah, that's what I think. So, our final prayer for today is called Kaddish, right? And if we want to talk about evolution, if we want to talk about lineage, we can look at this goddess right here. Her name is Ketesh. This is an Egyptian Canaanite goddess. This is a stele that was found in Canaanite cities around the time that Egypt was occupying territory, right? So Ketesh was just kind of like a knot, a goddess of sex and death. Right? You can see here she's arousing gods and doing all sorts of things with snakes. There are many cities in the ancient world named Kadesh, Kadash, Ketesh, Katash. I don't know how to pronounce them. They're pronounced any way you want. But over the many thousands of years, as gods have risen and fallen and been forgotten and been created, the word Kaddish evolved into a different state, right? It means prayer now, or holy. Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. Isaiah saw Yahweh on his throne, and he could not bear the sight of him, so the angels covered his face and said, Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. Kiddush is a prayer that's said over wine. Kaddish is my name. Right, so this word has many forms, many patterns, and one of them is Kaddish, a prayer of death, the mourner's Kaddish. And that's what we'll say now. So, you can remember the tree that has all of the patterns within it, even as they change and become unrecognizable. And people die and they go away, and yet their patterns persist in some changed, transformed, unrecognizable form. So for perhaps the last 2,000 years, give or take, people have been saying these words, Kaddish, in response to death, as a way to publicly grieve. Right? We don't have that many ways of publicly grieving in modern English-speaking world. But if you read these old stories, you hear people ripping their fabric and cutting their arms and grieving, wounding themselves visibly around others to signify that which they have lost. And we can continue that pattern in some tiny way by saying these words together to remind ourselves that to live is to suffer, to live is to lose. And perhaps in some tiny way, these words will help you let go of the things that you need to let go of, to grieve the things that you are grieving, that you have lost in the world, but perhaps not yet in your mind. So if there's anything that you are grieving, anything that you are mourning, feel free to put their names in the chat. And we will say Kaddish, which begins with the following words. Yid Gadal, Vid Kadash, Shemei Rabbah. B'yama divrachyu teviam nichmal chutei, b'chayachon of yomechon v'chayede kolbe Israel, b'galav izman kari vimru. Amen. Yehe Shemei Rabbah mevarach le'olam almei almaya, yitbarach v'ishtabach v'itbar v'itramam v'itmaseh, v'itadar v'itale v'italal Shemei dekudisha b'rechu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tush birchata v'nechemata, d'amiran b'yama vimru. Amen. Yehe Shlama Rabbah min Shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'yochol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mirmav, huya aseh shalom, aleinu v'yochol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mirmav, huya aseh shalom aleinu v'yalechol Yisrael v'imru. V'imru Amin. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. River, I adore you too. You've been very generous today, giving me more gifts in a single stream than I think anyone has ever given me. So thank you. I appreciate that. I'm gonna go now, because my mother called me 20 minutes ago, and I told her I would call her back. So that's what I'm gonna do now. Do I have a favorite goddess? Yes. I like this one. This is Katesh. Or maybe this one, Ashra. Which is my favorite goddess? I don't know. Do you know? Anat? Yeah. Yeah. Alright. So I'm going to call my mother. And I will bid you all farewell. And I hope you have a really lovely day. Bye.
Tian's about to come in.
Tian's about to come in. Okay, maybe I can't call my mother.
Wait to call your mother.
Okay.